10-0 against Elliott Jones, 9-1, playing black-white tokens. You see Elliott over on the right here. Black-white tokens, mostly all spells, just 2 creatures, 2 copies of Hero of Bladehold, seeks to basically make tokens and then pump them. Copies of Intangible Virtue alongside Honor of the Pure to pump cards like Lingering Souls, Spectral Procession, even a couple copies of Bitter Blossom, which do get pumped by the virtues.
Yeah, so it's a heavy white deck because it's facilitating Spectral Procession and touching black for a couple of removal spells, Bitter Blossom, Flashback on Lingering Souls.
All right, we are underway. Jeff is on the play with a Steam Vents, Godless Shrine over from Elliott Jones. And Jeff will have the first creature of the game. It's going to be a Tarmogoyf, currently at 1-2, just land in the graveyard. Go back over to Elliott. And if you don't think that Jeff's going to do a great job of playing fair Magic here, he's going to have to, you think, aggro him out maybe, something like turn 2 Tarmogoyf.
Turn 2 Tarmogoyf is not shabby here. Also, Elliott's deck is susceptible to Blood Moon. There really aren't that many basics for a 2-color deck. 1 Swamp, 4 Plains. So that is another route for victory for Jeff.
Yeah, turn 2 Honor of the Pure for Elliott. He does have 1 basic Plains in his hand, so not just going to get colded by Blood Moon. It's a basic Plains and he has all white cards, so turn 3 Blood Moon, not too effective. We go back over to Jeff. Jeff does have a copy of Vendalken Shackles in his hand. He's going to swing for 1 for Tarmogoyf. Now, how do you feel like a card like Shackles in this matchup? Obviously, Elliott makes tokens, but they're usually small enough that Shackles should be able to steal it.
Well, I think Shackles is a problematic card for Elliott's side. Definitely one of Jeff's better cards in the matchup.
Jeff's going to go ahead and shock here to play that Vendalken Shackles on turn 3. So he passes it back to Elliott. His drop of the turn is Sorin Solemn Visitor. That is a 4 of in his deck.
Now, Shackles is pretty slow, and Elliott can generate a lot of tokens to try to overwhelm it. You can also try to generate enough pump effects where Jeff doesn't have enough islands to be taking things, but on the balance, I think it is very, very effective in this matchup.
Yeah, Elliott does not have a way to remove it from the board. Still no creatures from Elliott yet. Just plays a second Anthem effect. This one's Intangible Virtue. That will give all his tokens 1/1 and Vigilance. 4th land from Jeff, sitting on Shackles and Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf's still pretty small right now, but hoping to weather the storm of tokens by stealing some of them, making them fight each other. And for Jeff, it's a good aggro draw. Swings for Goy for 1 and plays a second Tarmogoyf.
And with Shackles' backup here, which is complicating things quite a bit for Elliott.
Gonna have to get something going to see what Elliott does here. Draws at 4th land, so has option for Sorin, but not a safe board for the Planeswalker just yet.
Very brief announcements before we get started. First of all,
does have a copy of Hero of Bladehold in hand. And unlikely, well, he has to wait whether he thinks Jeff can take it, right? It'll be a 4/5 thanks to Honor of the Pure. Jeff right now has 2 islands, could fetch for a 3rd. I guess Elliott would have to wonder whether or not Jeff has another island in hand.
Right, or a way to get Honor of the Pure off the table. Those are the 2 big risks.
Instead, it looks like Elliott's going to go for Sorin. That's going to be something that Jeff can steal. He's going to go ahead and plus this Vampire. He's going to plus this Sorin up to 5, hope that this survives some Tarmogoyfs.
Well, keep in mind, the Tarmogoyfs right now are very small, and if Jeff wants to grease the wheels a little bit on them, he's going to just have to fire off random bolts at Elliott's face or something like that. So even though it doesn't look great, this is a relatively safe board for something like Sorin.
What I also like here is that the Sorin, if it pluses, allows Elliott to play to play Hero Bladehold next turn, and it'll get a +1 pump to its power, making it harder to steal with Vendalken Shackles.
Yep. You have 1 minute.
End step, Jeff will go ahead and fetch for a Steam Vents, trying to keep his island count as high as possible. Now up to 3. I don't believe any more lands in his hand just yet, though he does have a copy of Vapor Snag, which maybe could buy him the turns he needs to get by Hero Bladehold.
Yeah. I think Elliott also sitting on some removal spells, so he can turn around and start dismembering and pathing these Tarmogoyfs.
Absolutely, you're right. Dismember, Path, Hero Bladehold in Elliott's hand, Vapor Snag, and Snapcaster Mage in Jeff's. So also, maybe it picked up another copy of Vendalken Shackles. Not actually a legendary card there. Swinging with the 2 Tarmogoyfs, that's 1 damage apiece. They're going to go at Sorin. Sorin will go down to 3. Jeff, post-combat, he's going to go for a second copy of Vidalcan Shackles, but right now, Shackles are down. He did not play a land that turn.
Please collect those deck
So,
lists. Players,
He does have Vapor Snag and does have a blue to cast it, so some potential here.
Yeah, I mean, this is maybe the window that Elliott needs to finally start getting something going. He's been sitting here trying to set up as much as he possibly can to try to make Shackles not an influence.
And Hero Blade holds the play, plus a Sorin, but it is the Vapor Snag from Jeff. That'll put the hero back in Elliott's hand.
And more importantly, grows the Tarmogoyfs up to now 2/3s, so they are able to take out Sorin if Jeff so chooses.
Yeah, Serum Vision's the draw for Jeff.
And
Once he gets one more island in play, he should have that hero covered. Swing at Sorin, and Elliott will now use some removal. Does not want to lose his Planeswalker just yet.
And Serum Vision is a nice draw for Jeff too as well, just getting another sorcery, another different card type in the graveyard.
Elliott will use Dismember. That will put himself down to 12, paying 4 life for it. And you're right, getting a third card type in the graveyard when Jeff wants to. He didn't play the Serum Visions pre-combat, so it's just going to be 2 damage to the Sorin right now instead of 3. And it drops down to 1. So if Jeff had played Serum Visions pre-combat, he would have gotten the Sorin no matter. Well, he would have forced, I guess, Elliott to use the Path to Exile instead of the Dismember. Here's a post-combat Serum Visions. Jeff topping both of them, going to go cast another Serum Visions. Draws a land was one of the things he did want to keep. Looks like
Yeah, at this point, I think Jeff really, more than anything, just wants to keep drawing islands because that's going to make it really prohibitive for Elliott to do anything in the face of these Vidalcan Shackles.
Yeah, Shackles is a 2 of in Jeff's main deck, but one of the more important cards, especially in game 1. It's one of the ways his deck does a good job of becoming a control deck is thanks to these 2 Shackles. And Elliott's going to play Hero Blade, attempt to plus Sorin, but Jeff, in response to that, is going to go ahead and get a 4th island and take the hero.
Exactly. He's responding to Sorin's power here. Right now, that's the 4th island that he has in play. And Hero Blade hold only 4 power with that trigger on the stack between Hero Blade hold's natural power and the Honor of the Pure. So Jeff has an opportunity to take it, and now things are really, really bad for Elliott.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very likely that he'll come back from this. Just having a Path to Exile left. Elliott's going to go ahead and path the hero. He did wait until it was under Jeff's control, however, to path it, so Jeff's going to be the one getting an island.
Yeah, I think Elliott just did not anticipate that Jeff was going to be able to respond there and take the Hero Blade hold.
And Snapcaster Mage from Hoogland snapping back Serum Visions. He's just going to continue to grow his lead. It's unlikely that Elliott really will stick a relevant creature at this point. 2 Shackles is enough to even stop something like Spectral Procession from doing damage.
Yep.
Tarmogoyf takes out Sorin. He'll pass back. Elliott, no cards in hand, just 2 Anthems in play. Draw for the turn, I believe, is another copy of Dismember. He has another Path to Exile in hand. Removal, but that's not really going to help him here.
Yep. And I think Elliott just has no copies of workarounds for Vidalcan Shackles game 1. He needs to be faster or grow his creatures. But once we're in this stage, I don't think there's anything to be done.
Yeah, and having both your main deck Shackles early on is really, I think, what Jeff wants to see in game 1 of this match. As you mentioned, because Elliott has no answers to them, and they're really potent against this kind of strategy.
Vidalcan Shackles is just a really potent magic card.
Yeah, it's very powerful. Use Snapcaster Mage to Vapor. Elliott tries to path the Tarmogoyf, but Jeff uses Snapcaster Mage to Vapor Snag the Goyf back to his hand. Starts attacking with some Snapcaster Mage. Puts Elliott down to 7. Goes for another Serum Visions. Yeah, really just tying things up here.
Right. It's all elementary here. Jeff's just got such a commanding advantage.
Does have one of his main deck copies of Spreading Seas in hand. Talked with Jeff a little bit. this morning about it, said really liked how his deck was positioned, though the Blood Moons and Spreading Seas aspects of the deck had been pretty underwhelming for him.
Yeah.
Not as good in this meta as he thought they would be.
It's sort of a high variance strategy, right? When Spreading Seas and Blood Moon are great, they are awesome. Your opponent can't even really play. But when they're bad, they're not really Magic cards. So,
right.
Very impressive for Jet to be 10-0 with cards in this deck that are underperforming, however.
But the idea of being, I guess, like a pre-boarded Tarmogoyf teamer deck isn't bad here. It's been pretty good against the decks we've seen.
Yeah. And a commanding game one there from Jeff.
All right, Legacy
So
players.
he's up a game. Players are going to go to the sideboards, and with kind of decks, it certainly should be an interesting spot there in post-board.
So, what we got going on Elliott's side here?
Well, looking at Elliott's side, a lot of cards that are kind of bullets in different matchups, which you wouldn't use here. So, Core Firewalker, Leyline of Sanctity, Rest in Peace, Stony Silence. Those are things. I mean, I suppose if he's really cold to these shackles, he can use a card like Stony Silence, but it's very narrow. The other cards he has here, not particularly helpful. Inquisition of Kozilek, Thoughtseize, Dismember, Liliana of the Veil, and Zealous Persecution to round out his board.
Well, I can actually get down with Rest in Peace in this matchup because Jeff's creature base is Snapcaster Mage and Tarmogoyf. And I do think that Vidalcan Shackles is good enough that at the minimum it's worth bringing in the discard spells, and it may be worth bringing in the Stony Silence. I mean, Elliott could not function in the face of that card.
Yeah,
So-
it's true. That card just was pretty lights out for him.
Right. On the other side, Jeff with a Blood Moon, a Negate, 3 copies of Nature's Claim, 2 Flash Freeze, 2 Engineered Explosive, 2 Spellskite, a Vandal Blast, 2 Magma Spray, and an Aether Spouts. Aether Spout seems pretty sweet against a token deck.
I'm pretty sure, certainly, I would think that would come in.
I think so too. The 2 copies of Engineered Explosives, also excellent, and I think the Negate can come in.
Yeah, Elliott's deck, a full 34 non-creature spells. Negate seems very well positioned there. Yeah, so we talked a little bit last round about, we saw that we had announced our Season 2 schedule leading toward the first Modern Invitational we have, but we actually have the entire schedule for the year worked out. We're going to go ahead to Season 3. This is the next schedule we have coming up. This is the fall schedule, so it starts in June with a Modern Grand Prix following on the back of our Modern Invitational. That is Grand Prix Charlotte, June 12th through 14th. After that, we have some standard events as we move through the Midwest, Indianapolis, Baltimore, and then finally an Open Series in Chicago in July.
First time in Open Series history. Very happy to be going to Chicago. We went to Houston for the first time this year in Chicago as well.
After that, coming back over to the East Coast, it'll be Richmond for Standard. Back in this area for Modern again, it's DC. We have Standard Grand Prix in London, and then the Legacy Open in Charlotte.
Yeah, London, the first time we're going outside the United States for an event. We're very, very excited about London.
And then we lead toward our third Invitational. This is back to being Standard and Legacy. That is the Invitational in New Jersey happening at the end of August. You and I will be there along with Cedric Phillips covering all the action as we have the Invitational and a Standard Open Series the same weekend.
Yeah, and I'm always happy to go home. New Jersey, very well-attended event every single time we're back there, and should be really good.
Yeah, we'll bring you back to the match here. Jeff Hoogland, our only undefeated player at 10-0, up a game right now, looking to further his lead. Usually 12 tends to be around the magic number here. If you can start a tournament like this 12-0, you can coast your way into top 8 from there. So Jeff narrowing in on that.
Yeah, and just a real credit to the amount of work that he's put in on this format. I think that, when 2014, when we got towards the end of it and Jeff said, I feel like I'm done with Legacy, I want to focus on Modern, definitely caught some flack from certain elements of the community. The Opens at the time were a lot more lucrative, more Open Series points than the IQs, but Jeff had a lot of success playing there. He's built some pretty influential decks. His Blue-Red Fairies deck was definitely influential, ran into a lot on Magic Online back a couple years ago when that thing first got built. And now here, our first Modern Open Series ever, and our last undefeated player. A real credit to him and all the work he's put in.
Absolutely. And really showing, this is a matchup that did not, on paper, look particularly good for him. Having a commanding game one, though.
Well, I mean, Vidalcan Shackles has to be his best card in the matchup. I just don't see any workaround in Elliott's deck for that, other than trying to push past it or flooding the board with so many tokens that it's just too fast for Jeff to be able to get Shackles online, and both of those game plans are pretty hard to execute.
Yeah, Black-White Tokens is a very resilient deck, but it's not a very fast deck. Usually, you know, as we saw there, Elliott's first few turns were just setting up with cards like Anthems, Honor the Pure, Intangible Virtue, really waiting for that big payoff spell like Hero Blade Hold or Spectral Procession. Game 2, we're going to start on Inquisition of Kozilek. Looking at Jeff's hand, 2 lands, Remand, Serum Visions, Snapcaster Mage, Cryptic Command, or 3 lands with that. A very strong opener, I would think.
Yeah. This is the other entertaining thing about watching Jeff in Modern is a lot of his critiques of Legacy are the blue cards are too powerful, and then he has nobody ahead of all the good blue stuff.
None of them really are Brainstorm, though, so I will give him that.
It's true.
Jeff's going to start turn 1 fetching for Serum Visions.
This card is not Brainstorm.
Getting his other copy of Basic Island. Had 1 Basic Island in his hand, but opting to fetch here.
Though in a world where it would not be easy to shuffle your deck, Serum Visions and Brainstorm aren't that far apart. It's just free to shuffle your deck because of the fetch lands.
Right, yeah. When there aren't fetch lands, Brainstorm's a pretty fair card, actually.
Right. Like, which card is better in Booster Draft, for example?
Probably Serum Visions.
Serum Visions. It's probably better.
Yeah, Brainstorm, not a very high pick if you ever see it in something like a cube or a booster draft.
Yeah, you had to shuffle your deck to make the card busted. But because of Flooded Strand and Friends...
Boy, is it busted when you shuffle your deck.
Yeah.
Second land for Elliott, second land for Jeff, just on 2 islands. Elliott does not have a third land, so a stumble here for him. He's going to make an Intangible Virtue. And rather than going with the Remand, Jeff will just negate. And keeping Elliott at bay here. Can Jeff follow up? Needs a threat. Play Breeding Pool tapped. Elliott not hitting the land he needs to keep playing.
And I wasn't a huge fan of the negate last turn because it feels like between the negate and the remand, you can keep Elliott off of actually generating a token for quite a while. And now this Inquisition is quite a bit more awkward because you don't want to remand this. Elliott can just follow up and cast it again.
Exactly. He will remand it. Go ahead and get his card. And here we go, Inquisition again. Jeff, land, Cryptic Command, and he just has a
Boomerang.
Boomerang, yeah.
Got 2 of those bad boys in his list.
And the draw for Jeff's turn was Tarmogoyf. Kind of a way to get people, I guess, against the tokens.
It's just to get you. Pretty flexible.
No third land for Elliott, but what he does have is a copy of Bitter Blossom here.
And Jeff with Tarmogoyf plus Boomerang backup.
Goyf all up to a 5/6 at the moment, thanks to that enchantment that was put in the graveyard from Elliott.
Jeff rocking the Mirage copy. Probably a mistake. Just want to go ahead.
The Mirage one?
Gotta get the Legends one.
Yeah, I like that one. So it's like the little red thing holding onto the ground.
It's just a classic.
Players in standard vacuum. The new pairings for
Elliott, rather than going for the Bitter Blossom, he goes for Path on the Goyf. Jeff tries to Boomerang the Goyf, so Elliott will Path it again.
Yeah, I like this play, actually. Just get the Goyf off the table and try to get to a pretty high life total before you deploy Bitter Blossom.
He does know that Jeff's low on cards right now. He has a land and a Cryptic Command remaining. So if Elliott hits a third land, he can start playing. Now, he'll have to slug his way through at least 1 Cryptic Command, but there's a chance that Elliott can win that fight.
Yep. I mean, it's the old, stalled on lands versus flooding out. Typically, once the person who stalled a land draws out of it, they got a pretty big edge.
Serum Visions for Jeff. Both cards will go on the bottom. And Steam Vent's tapped. He'll pass back, leaving up that Cryptic Command. And here we go. Elliott does now hit land 3. He knows he's playing into Cryptic Command. His hand is Lingering Souls, Dismember, Sorin. He'll go for Souls, the card that Jeff will end up crypticking. Does have to, but, it does have flashbacks, so he'll get some tokens.
Yeah, a good way for Elliott to lead out there.
Jeff, you do see, does have 2 cards in hand. One of them is Electrolyze, however. So Jeff at the ready with an answer to these Lingering Souls. Elliott making Bitter Blossom here. Snapcaster Mage looks like it's going to go on Cryptic.
And this play I did not like from Elliott. I think I would have preferred to lead off with a flashback of Lingering Souls because that might be good enough to get another Cryptic Command, a negate, a Snapcaster Mage out of Jeff's hand, and then you can get the Bitter Blossom to resolve.
Yeah, now as we know, Jeff has an Electrolyze in hand, so it probably doesn't work. But from Elliott's side, I think I do agree.
Right.
Lightning Bolt and Electrolyze in his hand, in Jeff's hand. Electrolyze will take down 2 more tokens. And one thing that these blue-red decks are very good at doing is when they get ahead, they're good at compounding their advantage, and you see the Snapcaster Mage from Jeff doing just that.
Yeah, Electrolyze and Cryptic Command are very powerful when they're resolving for value, and just being able to just do that over and over again. So even though he's drawn quite a few bit more lands than Elliott has, Jeff has roughly the same amount of action.
We do get to see here, however, is another Lingering Souls from Elliott, and Jeff this time without the answer at the ready. Doesn't go ahead and fetch his lands on end step, thin out his deck a bit. But Elliott has cards that are great at generating just advantage in and of themselves. Jeff obviously, can Snapcaster Cryptic Commands to get advantage, but Lingering Soul's a 2-for-1 on its own.
Right. In some respects, a 4-for-1 if Jeff's on all, attacking with Snapcaster Mages and so forth. The waters get a little muddy in terms of how many cards is it actually worth, but right now, Lingering Souls is awesome.
Yeah, Jeff,
never mind.
For the turn, drawing another copy of Electrolyze. Could not have drawn it up better. And a white card here. This is going to be
Good old Spectral Procession.
Spectral Procession, yeah. 3 1/1s. That might be enough to get around and Electrolyze. And another Lingering Souls drawn from Elliott. And this is, I think, the part of the matchup when you, on paper, said it looked good for Elliott. It's just, even with all this action that Jeff has, just Elliott drawing a lot of copies of Lingering Souls seems problematic.
Right, yeah. Cryptic Commands and Electrolyzes have kept Jeff head above water, but they're still very, very powerful.
Spell Pierce takes care of Sorin Solemn Visitor. 2 tokens swinging in for Elliott, though, put Jeff down to 15. Elliott sure to leave. Being careful to leave back a blocker for Snapcaster. It looks like he does not want to get raced out. And another Lingering Souls. And there's Spectral Procession. No, Souls from hand for Elliott. That's going to get mana leaked. And so Elliott will just flash it back. And that's Spirit Tokens numbers 4 and 5. Now, does Jeff have a sweeper here? Is there a way you can just get all these tokens off the board?
Aether Spouts. Got one on the sideboard.
You
laugh, but it would be insane right now.
Snapcaster swings, it'll go ahead and trade with the Spirit Token. And Jeff feeling some heat here to get rid of these tokens. He's at 12, 4 tokens. It was a pretty fast clock. It looks like another Spectral Procession to draw for Elliott. Be interested to see just how much more he wants to commit here. He's got to feel a pretty good advantage.
At the moment where my opponent is bolting and boomeranging tokens, I'm unleashing hell. I'm dumping them all out.
Jeff down to 10. He boomerangs and bolts one of them. And here's Spectral Procession for Elliott. 3 more into play. 5 tokens. Once again, he's back to a 2-turn clock. 2 more lands from Jeff. Tapped. This is going to be Tarmogoyf. Tarmogoyf, a pretty big one right now.
Looks like Elliott left at least one of the Lingering Souls in the chamber, so in case Jeff does draw Aether Spouts.
And I swing with 5. I believe Tarmogoyf is a 7/8. We have almost everything here. Hero Bladehold, the follow-up for Elliott. He puts Jeff down to 5. Very impressive for the Goyf, but not impressive enough. Game 2, over to Elliott.
Yeah, let's go back there. Instant Sorcery, Land Creature, Planeswalker, Enchantment. What are we missing?
Tribal. Wasn't there Bitter Blossom in the yard?
Oh, right, Tribal.
Yeah.
Magic's most maligned card type.
Yeah. Everything but the artifact. So they've evened up at 1-1, Jeff Hoogland and Elliott Jones. And despite, this is a strength for the matchup really for Elliott. There were so many stumbles on Elliott's side early on. Jeff was snapcasting Cryptic Commands before Elliott had 3 mana.
Yeah, I mean, Elliott saw it on lands. We saw numerous copies of Cryptic Command resolved, numerous copies of Electrolyze resolved.
But just the Lingering Souls, it just seems like an excellent card here.
It's just, it's a lot of Magic cards in one Magic card. And Jeff's deck does have some workarounds. Vidalcan Shackles is good, Electrolyze is good, but even in the spot where he has Electrolyze, you still have to answer the flashback.
I mean, yeah, Jeff got to Electrolyze Lingering Souls tokens twice. He resolved, I think, 3 Cryptic Commands. This is what his deck wants to do. So in the face, that doesn't work against, it felt like a somewhat average draw from Jeff. Is this just all about Shackles?
It might be, and those electrolysis and those cryptic commands, those are the only copies in the list. Jeff only has 2 of each of them. So that was really his best punch that he can throw against those kind of cards.
Outside of shackles,
excluding Vidalcan shackles, and it wasn't even close to enough.
Well, he does have a new punch on the side. He does have 2 copies of engineered explosives, and they're pretty excellent.
Yeah, they definitely help a lot. The Aether Spouts too. If he drew it that game, it would have been insane. So he does have some other tools, but in terms of his main deck, those were all the cards. We saw them all.
We'll be on to game 3 here. Between the two, Jeff will be back on the play. Jeff at 10-0, Elliott at 9-1. Remember, this is round 11 of 15, so 6 final rounds of Swiss here on day 2. And we are underway. Jeff's on the play. You're going to start out with a Serum Visions. And Jeff does look like he has some early pressure. He has a turn 2 Tarmogoyf. He has a Negate and a Snapcaster Mage. Pretty good setup. Requisite lands to play them all.
Assuming he plays his Tarmogoyf on the second turn, however, this is the kind of draw where Bitter Blossom can just generate too much stuff.
That is something that is worth noting, is that if Elliott just lands a turn 2 Bitter Blossom, that is so hard for Jeff to deal with outside of Shackles. And even inside of Shackles, it may be pretty hard to deal with.
Yep. Because Elliott can simply not attack, build up the board.
Isolated Chapel turn 1 from Elliott Jones. He has boarded in his Thoughtseize, but cannot play one on turn 1. This means Jeff gets to resolve Tarmogoyf. We'll see if Elliott has a counterpunch. There's the Godless Shrine, which would have made the turn 1 Thoughtseize, but it's a turn slow. Now it is going to be Thoughtseize, though, from Elliott Jones. He gets to see what Jeff's working with, as do we. Negate, Snapcaster Mage, another Snapcaster Mage, and another Tarmogoyf to go with Jeff's 3rd land. A pretty decent aggro start now that, especially now that Elliott has put another card type in the grave. No, he doesn't put another card type. They're both just sorceries, but I believe he will put another one off this Thoughtseize.
Right, and I don't think you can take a Snapcaster Mage out of this hand because the damage is already kind of done by the first one. So it feels like Tarmogoyf versus Negate.
See what he wants to clear the way for. He's going to go with... has to think it through.
Yeah, and he's already saying the Snapcasters aside, saying you keep those.
You see cards like Path to Exile in Elliott's hand. I think he'll take the Negate because of that. And that's what he does. Plays a Plains for the turn, noting he's playing the Plains, not the Godless Shrine trapped, meaning I believe Elliott has every intention of pathing this guy. Well, he'll take 2. If he's going to path, it's not yet. 3rd land from Jeff, and it's going to be Snapcaster Mage on Serum Visions, just getting more value. For the turn, Jeff drew Nature's Claim.
Yeah, the game is setting up to be a long one here, so I just kind of like, getting one of the Snapcasters out there, drawing an extra card, trying to play some sort of value game. Eventually, Jeff, I feel like, does need to get one of his high-impact cards, but for the time being, this is a fine way to spend some time.
And Spectral Procession, the draw for Elliott. Never a bad time for that card in this matchup. And it'll be cast right now on triple white. So a blocker for the Snapcaster, not really a blocker yet for Tarmogoyf. But Elliott now has his own creatures on the board. We'll bash back over to Jeff. He has a remaining copy of Snapcaster Mage, draws Serum Visions for the turn. That's something he scried to the top. Has another Tarmogoyf in hand as well.
Yeah, so he has the option of basically leaving all of his mana up so he can Snapcaster Negate or continue to advance his board. Feel like he needs to do some more board advancing and then take some turns off down the line, leaving up Negate or whatever other counterspell he's able to find in the interim.
On his turn, Jeff attacks. He trades the Snapcaster off with a Spirit Token. That does help him grow the Tarmogoyf as it adds creature to the graveyard. Post-combat, Jeff's going to start with the Serum Visions. With the land, he can Snapcast the Serum Visions as well, but you're right, leaving up counter magic is also a priority here. See, Snapcaster, Nature's Claim, Tarmogoyf, land, and one more card in his hand. Something blue. Right now working on his scry. Nature's Claim seems pretty decent here, especially against the Anthem effects that Elliott has.
Yeah, there's plenty of targets in Elliott's deck.
And looks like it's going to be more value. Snapcaster on Serum Visions for Jeff.
Yeah, and Jeff might have drawn the conclusion that it's just too cumbersome to hold up Snapcaster Negate for the rest of the game. So this is just a smoother way of going about things.
I'll go back over to Elliott. Sorin, Solemn Visitor is draw for the turn. Not a shabby draw here. He does have at least one Anthem effect. We see Honor of the Pure. We see 2 more lands. Looks like another copy of Spectral Procession if he wants it. That just may be the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, I have a tough time just turning down, generating more 1/1 flyers against Jeff's deck.
2 of them swing in. That puts Jeff down to 16. Well, it looks like he's not playing an Anthem no matter what. Didn't play one pre-combat.
I should hope not.
And 3 lands here. It's going to be another Spectral Procession. And Elliott, conscientiously, see, he's leaving up a Plains instead of a dual land. I think really a concession to the fact that Jeff may be playing Blood Moon.
Yep.
This does happen when you're the only undefeated player on day 1. People start to know what you're on. And one thing I do like about Elliott's draw here is that one of his Anthem effects is Sorin, as opposed to just having the Honor of the Pure. So these Nature's Claims in Jeff's hand may be left without targets.
I think they're still worth bringing in from Jeff's side of the table because there's so many targets. But another problem here is even if they're able to resolve, this is the type of matchup that's shaping up to be a damage race, you know? Against a deck like, let's say, Affinity, where you really want this sort of effect, Jeff is firmly the control deck. You don't really care that much about your opponent gaining life.
Yeah.
Here, it does look like this is going to be a damage race kind of matchup.
Yeah, well, just because Jeff has trouble outside of Ancient Explosives sweeping. If he doesn't find explosives or Aether Spells, he can't sweep away these flyers, so he has to race them.
Yeah.
I think that's really what he's looking for. And I'm wondering if he's been aggressively Serum Visioning with all his Snapcasters, whether that's just what he's doing, like digging toward an explosives.
I feel from this spot, Jeff's good cards are worth so much and his mediocre cards are worth basically nothing, that his game plan should be aggressively dig for Cryptic Command, Engineered Explosives, Aether Spouts.
Yeah. Inquisition of Kozilek from Elliott. And if you want to talk about damage racing, you should talk about the Sorin Plus ability really messes up a race. It gives lifelink in addition to 1/0. In response to the Inquisition, Jeff will Vapor Snag away a token. We see Jeff's hand. It's Nature's Claim, Tarmogoyf, Nature's Claim. If there's only 1 claim, I think Elliott would take them. But with 2, maybe just takes the Goyf.
Especially if he has a play like play Sorin and plus it. So you take the Tarmogoyf Stranded with 2 copies of Nature's Claim.
Sure. That will put Jeff down to 8 and Elliott up to 20. Well, 18, he'd have to shock to do it.
And then if Jeff taps out, you always have the option of deploying your enchantments for a 1-turn boost. And if you make a big swing this turn, you know you're hitting for 8. You know, Jeff is suddenly at 8, and all it takes is 1 hit with one of your Anthem effects to finish it off.
And I like what Elliott did. He saw that Jeff was tapped out this turn, so he played his Godless Shrine tapped. He's playing Honor of the Pure right now, while Jeff can't Nature's Claim and swinging for 8 in the air.
Yeah, this is really sweet because Jeff has to kill this, so Elliott gains life, and it leaves the Sorin uncontested next turn. It's just very good sequencing.
And it's lethal.
Yep.
So unless Jeff has a removal spell here, Elliott should get this match on the next turn. Nature's Claim will go ahead and take care of the Honor of the Pure. Jeff did draw Snapcaster Mage for the turn, so that should be enough to keep Jeff alive for a turn. Let's see, here he swings back for a ton of damage for 10, it looks like. Yeah, Elliott will blunt that one a bit here, Path to Exile showing up. Let's make that 10 a more honest 6.
And Jeff doesn't even have a second green mana at this point, so set aside the Sorin, any enchantment on the follow-up gets it done.
Yeah, Jeff is locked into playing Snapcaster Vapor Snag, I believe, on this next turn.
And the lifelink hit is so big.
Yeah, that is Sorin's so good in that racing situation. Jeff deciding on this Path to Exile. I don't believe he still knows any cards off Scries, so he's going to, maybe he does, he's going to decline to search.
Yeah, he's cried quite a bit to the bottom with his Serum Vision.
So he just doesn't want to get those back in the deck?
Right, removing 1 land if you've scryed a bunch to the bottom. Now, the issue that I have there is it means that Aether Spouts is no longer an out.
It's only a 1-of, so maybe the math still works out there. Sorin is the play for Elliott. This is going to force Jeff's hand. Like adding one out at the cost of shuffling in n number of dead draws, you know,
Sure.
there's just a critical n there, which you don't do it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not that high. I think if he's scryed 5 to the bottom, then it's not worth it anymore. You see here, swing going to happen. And that will be the match. Elliott Jones, 2-1 deals. Jeff Hoogland, his first loss. No players left undefeated, and now they will move into a tie for first, both at 10-1.
Yeah, you see Jeff scryed a bunch of lands to the bottom, so his not searching there does make sense.
Yep.
Turning on the Aether Spouts is not worth shuffling the 5 lands, or I guess 4 lands because you're pulling one of them out, but Jeff's electing not to search there does make sense when you see how many lands got scryed to the bottom.
Yeah, so there you have it. Black-white tokens does take down Teamer Moon there. In a matchup, it seems like Jeff had to find a card like Engineer Explosives or, I mean, maybe an early Vidalcan Shackles. By the time Elliott had 5 Flyers in play, it doesn't even seem like Shackles is enough.